She was just a maid in a grand mansion, unseen, unvalued, and mocked because of the color of her skin. To the wealthy family she served, she was nothing more than background, a shadow moving through gilded halls. But one night, everything changed. A challenge meant to humiliate her turned into a moment no one in that ballroom would ever forget. Because when the music began, the truth could no longer be hidden. What happened on that dance floor shattered arrogance, exposed prejudice, and left everyone questioning what true worth really means. She had always lived in the shadows of wealth she could never touch. Every morning, Maria polished silver that wasn't hers, set tables she'd never eat at, and ironed gowns she'd never wear. To the millionaire family she worked for, she was simply the maid. They never asked about her past, never cared about her dreams. What they didn't know was that beyond the long hours and quiet obedience, Maria carried a hidden passion, one that had once filled her life with light and applause. But in this mansion, her talent meant nothing. She was expected to stay silent, unseen. Until one evening, when a single cruel dare threatened to expose both their prejudice and her secret strength. Maria had always known her place in the mansion. She cleaned quietly, spoke only when spoken to, and kept her eyes lowered when the guests arrived. To the wealthy family, she wasn't a person with a story. She was simply the help. Her skin color and uniform were enough to erase everything else she had ever been. But behind closed doors, she practiced her steps late at night, the same steps that had once won her competitions in another life. Dance had been her joy, her freedom, until poverty and prejudice stripped it away. One evening, the mansion buzzed with music and laughter. The millionaire was hosting a lavish ball, where wealthy men paraded their sons before potential brides. The chandeliers glittered, violins filled the air, and every guest was dressed in elegance. Maria moved among them silently, serving drinks and collecting empty glasses. To them, she was invisible, until the moment that would change everything. Amused by his own arrogance, the millionaire smirked as he looked at Maria. He declared before his wealthy friends that if she could dance the waltz flawlessly, she could marry his son. The room erupted in laughter. To them, it was a joke, a cruel dare meant to humiliate. A maid? Dancing among them? Impossible. Maria froze, the weight of their mocking eyes pressing against her. Whispers spread across the ballroom like fire. Some sneered, others smirked, and a few simply shook their heads. To the guests, it wasn't just about dance, it was about putting a black maid in her place. She wasn't meant to be graceful, wasn't meant to belong in their world of chandeliers and silk gowns. She was meant to serve, not shine. But deep inside, Maria felt the stirring of something stronger than fear. She remembered the nights she had spun across wooden floors, the applause of crowds, the trophies she once held. She had buried that part of herself because the world around her told her it didn't matter. Yet now, faced with their cruelty, she knew she couldn't hide forever. The violins played louder, the laughter echoed sharper, and all eyes waited to see her fail. With every second, the humiliation grew heavier. She could walk away, stay silent, and prove them right. Or she could step forward, risk everything, and reveal a truth they never expected. The music swelled. Her heart raced. And as she placed her trembling hands on the polished floor, the room held its breath, waiting to see if the maid would crumble or rise. The music struck its first note, and for a moment, the ballroom fell silent. Maria stepped onto the polished floor, her head held high. Every gaze was fixed on her, some mocking, some curious, but all waiting for her to fail. She felt the weight of centuries pressing down, the cruel laughter echoing in her ears, and the sting of every time she'd been told she didn't belong. Then she moved, one step, then another, her body flowing with a grace that silenced even the loudest whispers. The waltz wasn't just a dance. It was defiance. With every turn, she spun through their prejudice. With every lift of her arms, she shattered the walls they had built around her. The millionaire's smirk faded. Guests exchanged glances, their laughter replaced by disbelief. But Maria wasn't dancing for them. She was dancing for every maid who had been invisible, for every voice silenced, for every dream crushed under the weight of arrogance. Her heart pounded, her lungs burned, but she didn't falter. The chandeliers seemed to glow brighter, the violins rose higher, and the floor beneath her carried the rhythm of her triumph. When the final note rang out, the room stood in stunned silence. No one laughed now. No one dared. The same people who had mocked her were frozen, unable to deny what they had just witnessed. For one unforgettable moment, Maria had turned humiliation into victory. And yet, beneath the silence, another truth lingered. Would her brilliance be celebrated or denied because of who she was? The ballroom never forgot that night. Maria's waltz was talked about in hushed voices for weeks, but not in the way she deserved. Some guests praised her talent reluctantly, others dismissed it as a lucky moment. The millionaire never honored his words because to him, a promise made to a maid carried no weight. And yet, Maria walked away with something greater than their approval. She walked away with her dignity, her pride, and proof that their prejudice could not define her worth. But the truth is, Maria's story is bigger than one dance. It reflects the painful reality that talent, brilliance, and humanity are too often overlooked when wrapped in skin that society chooses to undervalue. Her defiance on that polished floor was not just a victory for herself. It was a mirror, forcing everyone to see the injustice they had chosen to ignore. Even today, how many Marias are hidden in the background? How many dreams are dismissed? How many voices silenced simply because of race, status, or circumstance? Her story reminds us that racism doesn't always come as violence on the streets. It can be the quiet cruelty of mockery, the arrogance of exclusion, the theft of opportunity. Maria's dance ended with silence, but her impact lingers, because every step she took asked a question that still matters. When will we finally see people for who they are, and not for the labels society forces upon them?